another edition of the Bff Show. I'm Brendan.
I'm Franco.
And normally we would launch right in to our topics for the day. Total disregard for our personal well-being. We don't care. We don't want to catch up with each other. We have too much to talk about. But we do have a special birthday shout-out that has been requested of us by Mr. Travis Claus to his wonderful, fantastic, beautiful, friendly, fun girlfriend, Natasha. It's her birthday. Happy birthday, Natasha. Franco, birthday thoughts.
Natasha, happy birthday. We're so happy you met Travis. You made him a better man. I'm not sure what he's doing to keep you, but hopefully he keeps doing it because you're quite the catch.
You have saved us the trouble of having to check in on him. We're both not regionally near him, so who knows what he would have been up to had you not been in the picture. We've got a lot of stories, which we won't air. 2.2. Feel free to reference that if you want. But happy birthday. Hope you have a great one.
Happy birthday. I would change your Netflix password. Travis used that at a random Airbnb. Just so you know now. Happy birthday.
If you need more info, let us know. Give us a call. All right. So now that and then if you have a birthday shout out, what's the email again, Franco?
It's the Bff Show on AMP at gmail.com. Send your birthday wishes to Natasha there. We'll get them to her.
We'll get them to her. We could do a scroll while we talk. If people send their birthdays and not reference it, just scroll it over our faces. That would make me laugh.
If we get any emails between now and when I edit it tomorrow, I will. Oh, wait, that doesn't work. It'll be released. We're off to a good start.
Off to a great start. It's a great start. But
next week
we'll do a scroll, and it's going to be great. It's going to be right in the middle of our faces. We won't talk about it. It'll just show up. But let's get into what we have. We have a huge docket of topics, Franco, and we're going to start with, again, something that's near and dear to our heart. We've talked a lot about it, but there's been some interesting development on the WWE front. Monday Night Raw featured for the first time Roman Reigns, John Cena, in a ring. And to give some context to this, Franco and I are veterans of watching WWE, and typically when you hear contract signing, it's the same old. You have the heel that is cocky, you have the face that's just saying, I want to fight, I'm here, let's sign it. They usually throw the table over, they fight, and that's it. Nothing really noteworthy. This was noteworthy. This was a huge departure from what normally WWE produces, and it featured what many thought is this off the cuff? Franco, do you want to go more into what we're talking about here?
Absolutely. So John Cena, Roman Reigns, and the history here is that I try to imagine it'd be like Jeter versus DiMaggio, right? DiMaggio came first, Jeter came afterwards. Jeter's the heir apparent to the Yankees lineage. It's kind of what you're looking at. So Cena's been around for a really long time. They're grooming Roman Reigns to be the next Cena. So that's kind of what you're looking at as far as the dynamic. And instead of doing the by the numbers basic interview, they did what's closer to a shoot. And so to our regular fans, a shoot means it's a interview where they break the fourth wall and they acknowledge a lot of things, and it's more close to their true feelings. And so in this interview, John Cena, one, acknowledged that Reigns is not getting over with the crowd, two, that he's not good at doing promos, and three, his own situation where he gets booed and cheered. Whereas Reigns did the same and attacked Cena for all the things that many smart fans complain about him for.
Some of the direct quotes from John Cena was that he ain't the guy. This is to Reigns, which we can talk about was a really terrible decision on WWE's part to try to market one of their top stars as just the guy. I think the direct line that originated that nickname was something like, I'm not a good guy, I'm not a bad guy, I'm the guy, which if you said that in any other context, you would have been laughed out of the room trying to use that to pick up a girl at the bar. I'm not the bad guy, I'm not the good guy, I'm the guy. She would have left by that point. So Cena says he ain't the guy, dude, you're just a guy trying so desperately to fill shoes that you never will, which I thought was hilarious. Reigns did fire back saying, you're not as big a deal as you think you are, calling him a yes man and a part-time and fake B. And also he said, I'll be damned if I don't bust my butt Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, every single week so you can hang out on the Today Show, which again is a big critique of John Cena now, is that he's considered a part-timer, which the irony of, and you know this, Franco, was that during his feud with The Rock, that's basically what Reigns is telling Cena now is what Cena told The Rock during their feud, was that he's a part-timer, he can come in whenever he wants, I'm here all the time. Well, now the tables have turned, and it's interesting dynamic because Reigns, to get into the history of it a little bit, has been force-fed to the audience as the next big thing, as the next Cena, where many fans don't really feel like he earned it. Right, Franco?
He didn't earn it. I mean,
yeah.
Let's not mince here. You and I haven't earned anything in the wrestling business. We've not done anything in the wrestling business. But as far as other stars that have come up, Reigns' ascension's been relatively shorter. And even guys that came up with him, like Seth Rollins, still had to take a pretty good amount of lumps to get to that point and had to lose some major feuds, whereas Reigns has just been elevated continually. And that's kind of what Cena was saying. Again, it's like a high school player skipping college, going straight to the NFL and being given the quarterback spot without playing any preseason. That's kind of what you're looking at as far as to give a comparison sports-wise.
I think, but I find myself at least enjoying more Reigns matches. I think he can actually, I enjoy them to the point where he does his 5 moves of doom, which is essentially the Superman punch 4 times and then the spear. He doesn't. That's the only part that gets really maddening if you're watching it. You're like, okay, here we go. And you saw that at the SummerSlam main event. I think he Superman punched. We had a bet going, like the over under was set at 8, and I think he did like 14 or something ridiculous
14,
like that.
14 of these.
14 punch.
Yep,
It's just that part gets maddening because it doesn't look like an effective move. So you have that again, and then you have him just like you said, constantly winning. But now they're trying to repair him, but I think the damage may have been done after. And I don't know, Franco, if you recognize this, but in the same article I read those quotes. Did you realize that Reigns main evented WrestleMania 3 times in a row? I held up 4 because I feel like he's coming, but like again for this year, but 3. When I read that, I read it twice because I went, no, that can't be right, and I looked, and no, it's been 3 times.
It has been, and they're just trying to force feed him. And the answer here really is what you do when any good guys become overly stale and annoying. You make him a bad guy. But they haven't done that yet. Hopefully this is the start of that because he's not going to work as a hero.
That was my next question to you. Do you think that this is the start of a heel Reigns? And if so, who would you predict to win at No Mercy September 24th?
I predicted John Cena loss. I think Reigns wins. Cena has gotten a lot better at putting guys over. I mean, back in the day, some of those criticisms were true. He did bury Wade Barrett and end that career. He buried, I forget the guy's name, actually. That's how bad he buried that guy, the guy that dated the same girl he dated way back in the day, Ken Doane.
Yep.
But now he's much better at putting guys over, and I think he'll put over Roman Reigns because it's the right thing to do. And we'll see that. However well it goes over will be a whole other issue, but that's what we'll see happen.
The pay-per-view is in Los Angeles, so that's typically not a friendly crowd. It's got some smarks in it, so it's not like they're doing this. Anywhere East Coast is difficult. West Coast is a little bit better, but it's still not the greatest. So we'll have to see. My guess, I'm gonna go the opposite. I think that Cena wins, but I think we do a little bit of a role reversal. What's the term that I'm looking for, where you kind of switch roles mid-match?
I'm not sure. The switcheroo.
You know, I'm trying to remember. I'll remember it after we're done recording. But essentially, maybe a double turn. Maybe a double turn is what I'm looking for. Yeah,
the double switch.
The double switch. So I'm thinking where maybe you kind of have Reigns fully embrace the heel role, and then Cena have to be a super face to beat him, and then you kind of solidify their roles because Cena's not going to go heel, so you should make Reigns go super heel. And I think that's the match where you do it, where you just make him be absolutely vicious after a loss, or he gets disqualified. Because I think they want to hold that. They should hold on to the proper crowning of Reigns over Cena for WrestleMania.
I think you're right. I think that is a lot of vision you've applied there. I don't think that's how the wrestling business works. I don't think they have that much foresight. But we will see. And how could you not get double switch? It's a role where they both switch in the middle. Double switch seems like a natural transition.
It's very hot out here in California, and it's really affecting. I didn't sleep last night because we're trying to not use the air conditioner, and I'm sweating. The air conditioner's on in the living room, and I'm sweating profusely doing this. That's why I have no shame wearing a tank top, and the ceiling fan's not helping me at all because I can't turn it on loud because it picks up on the mic. So essentially, I'm losing my mind in a sweatbox.
I'll make the rest of this show quite entertaining.
Please carry the rest of the show. But before we are going to talk about our fantasy football, but I just wanted to touch before we transition, because this is a short note. The Celtics trade we talked about previously may not actually happen because now the Cleveland Cavaliers are a little gun shy about Isaiah Thomas's hip, which, as we noted in this show, and quite frankly, this show is not scooping anybody. So it's well-known fact that he had hip issues, and now they're kind of looking at things differently. Perhaps maybe they got a new medical report after the fact. We don't know really the details, but they have requested, supposedly, and I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is official, but they have requested, the rumor, another player to supplement and make that a little bit better of a deal, but the Cavaliers have not engaged that yet.
Yeah, they basically asked for another pick or player to make the deal better. Kind of what happened was it seemed like once Thomas got to Cleveland or saw a doctor endorsed by Cleveland, they found something. So we will see. I mean, Cleveland was making out like a bandit anyway. If I were them, I'd still pull the trigger, but I see what they're doing.
So we'll see, but we'll keep an eye on that.
So maybe not so much
always,
by Kyrie. Welcome back, Kyrie. I'm so sorry I forced you out. We'd love to have you for another year. No hard feelings. Yeah,
that would be a wonderful WWE. Speaking of WWE, that would be a fantastic storyline. If they had to play on the same team after being traded, that would be fantastic. But we did have our fantasy football draft. And
we did.
There are a lot of words that I could say about my own performance that are all not FCC regulation words, but primarily my team is a straight up dumpster fire because well, not to get too deep, but we did the draft. It was a ton of fun, but we have a legacy draft. So I feel like while that does put us in an advantage for if you have a really good team you want to cultivate, for someone like me, I took a risk on I usually play risky. I like to invest and make picks of the third string guy that may be elevated at some point in the season, but it's probably poor decision making on my part to try to draft him now. But I enjoy that risk, high risk, high reward. So let's talk about sort of that strategy. What was your thoughts going into this, Franco, and how and what were your thoughts in general before we deep dive into our own personal hells of drafts?
I think it's okay to go high risk, high reward. The problem is that you need to shore up your picks in some way.
Yeah.
So if you're in a keeper league, keep one or two players that you can kind of build your roster around. Normally it's going to be one strong receiver, one strong running back. And then if you have 4 picks, a quarterback, a tight end. Always to diversify, never pigeonhole. In your case, you didn't have a good foundation. So you reached a lot, which is okay sometimes. And for all we know, you may end up making the playoffs. It's kind of one of those things you can never get upset about your pre-draft ranking because it assumes a lot of things. If you look at the numbers, in the last 3 years, a top 5 running back and wide receiver have had an average draft position past the 10th round. So that tells you, even with Brendan's strategy of closing his eyes and throwing darts, he may have hit on a top 3 player without knowing it. So never get too worried about it. Kind of write out the first 2 weeks and then think about trades after that.
My draft grade from NFL.com was a C-. I'm projected to go 0-12. I have a 2.4% chance to win the championship and a 14% chance to make it into the playoffs. And that 14% is just simple mathematics. It's not like they looked at anybody on my team and said, this is going to push him over the edge. It's like, based on math alone and the amount of people, you have a 14% chance.
Yeah, I fared a little better.
Yep.
I have like an 82% chance of making the playoffs, 10% chance to win. I got an A-, 8-5 record prediction. So we'll keep that up. We'll keep the fantasy watch going the rest of the year, but that's what it looks like so far. And to our dear watchers / listeners, every year Brendan and I engage in some sort of bet over who places higher, and then one of us carries it out. It's been Brendan the last 3 years who's lost to me.
Yep.
Which is fantastic. One time he got a piercing, and that was the greatest moment, I think, in radio history. So if you have any ideas for this bet, please send it to the email address, which will flash now under Brendan's hand when we release a show.
Let us know. The earring lasted a day. It hurt like hell. I hated every part of it. What did we do last year, though? I don't remember doing anything.
We got Egner to give himself a bad haircut.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Which for Kurt is kind of every haircut, but he did a worse haircut. So
Kurt Slam. Only on this show.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, no, I think it. Friend of the show. Friend of the show. I think it. I enjoy the draft. I think that it's, we all collectively at like around 4 looked at the board and went, "Oh, this is terrible," because we had all kept the people that we wanted to that were really good. So like I do kind of have some glimmer of hope that at least maybe 1 or 2 of the people I drafted will do well. But I rolled the dice on Martavius Bryant, who may or may not even play. We don't know. And yeah, it's one of those things where I think I blacked out once I left the draft room, and I haven't looked at my team since because I'm terrified. But it makes it for fun. We'll see. And then you're right, the first couple of weeks you just got to ride it out.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I think for me, draft day is one of my favorite days of the year because we have 10 people in the chat room saying horrible things to each other. We have a great draft going. If you haven't done the chat room with your draft news student online, don't do that. Get the voice activation, get it going. That's the best way to have a draft, or do it in person. But our league actually spans across the entire country. We have someone as far as Maine. We have California. We have New York. We have North Carolina. We have Wisconsin. It's a pretty wide range of players, so it's not a live option for us yet.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about that, but I think we got to really we would need to plan now for
once we make that
year.
Money, we can talk about it. We're getting there. We're making a deal now, but we'll see.
Once I get out of the studio that has the laundry behind my shoulder, then things are looking up for us.
You mean once you can afford air conditioning and not wear a tank top on air? That probably helped too.
Hey man, when you're sweating as much as I am, I wish you could feel it on this side of the screen. It's a hot zone. But I want to. We'll do fantasy updates throughout, and we'll go back into a tradition on the old radio show, which was buy low, sell high, and waiver wire pickups. And we'll do our best based on the show. Probably if you miss it, sorry, but you're gonna have to be on top of the show now in order to get those good waiver wires. We'll do some matchups too, but we'll do it. This is a potpourri show, Franco. We're just flying. Potpourri, flying through topics. You're setting yourself up for so many edits. I just want to put that out there. You're gonna be working on this. I don't even know if I have
a potpourri edit. It'll be a firework or something.
I don't care.
I'll find
think
a cat
hilarious.
knocking over potpourri or something. We'll go with that.
That's wonderful.
Cat. Potpourri.
Cat. Little cat. Hollywood is suffering a little bit, my friend. Hollywood summer box office. The stats came out done by the Hollywood Reporter that the Labor Day weekend as it wraps, summer box office revenue in North America will end up actually being down nearly 16% over the last year, the steepest decline in modern times, eclipsing the 14.6% dip in 2014. It will also be the first time since 2006 that summer didn't clear $4 billion. A lot of movies came out this year over the summer, to name a few, and I'll roll through them real quick, that didn't do as well as I think they thought that they would. Transformers: The Last Night, The Mummy, Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tales. They had King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, The Dark Tower didn't do great financially, and then Baywatch, Girls Trip was also 2 comedies that didn't do well. When you look at that, Franco, and it's funny because you and I normally are really big into movies, and there were some huge hits. Wonder Woman was a big hit, but that's to me the only one that, and Spider-Man: Homecoming was good, but not financially as big of a hit as previous Spider-Man films the first couple weeks. But really, when you're looking at it, was Wonder Woman the only bona fide hit of the summer? And what were your thoughts in general about what was offered to you as a consumer this summer?
I think as we're going by blockbusters, I think Wonder Woman's the only one that had the staying power. Spider-Man: Homecoming was fantastic, but they had to earn back the trust of fans who they've kind of alienated through the forced Andrew Garfield years. I think the problem with this summer was we had a lot of, kind of like your fantasy roster, swings and misses that were kind of risky. The Dark Tower was always going to be risky because they didn't adapt a book, they made a sequel. It's kind of hard to do given there's 19 books. Valerian and the Thousand Whatevers, we talked about it on the show. We said it was going to bomb.
Yep.
You say we're not scoops, but we scooped that one. That was bad.
We were all over that one.
I mean, and that had potential to be an Avatar type movie where it was a very visual feast while not having a great plot, but that didn't work out for them. So I think it was just more we had a lot of gambles that didn't work out. Transformers in reality will earn back all the money they kind of lost in the U.S. market internationally. They always kind of do that. And don't think we're done with this, because we're not. They'll be back. It's going to happen. So I think next summer they'll rebound, because we'll have the Avengers, we'll have more Marvel products. That's kind of what kind of buoyed it. This summer was pretty light on Marvel, and I think that was reflected in the box office.
Yeah, the top 10 poll winners were Guardians of the Galaxy. They consider that the kickoff. I forgot about that. Earned $389.4 million domestically and $862.8 million globally. Wonder Woman, as we said, Despicable Me 3, $254.5 million domestically, $971.7 million internationally. And then Spider-Man Homecoming was rounding out the bottom at $318.8 million. I'm sorry, no, Despicable Me 3 was the bottom. Spider-Man Homecoming next. And then there were smaller movies that did well based on what they, how much it took to produce them, like Baby Driver and Annabelle Creation. But when you look at the amount of movies that were out there, that's like 4 major films over the course of 4 months. So one hit per month for Hollywood after all the work that they did in promoting things like The Mummy, Johnny Depp. And I think the one thing I'll touch on, and I want to get your thoughts, I think everybody in the movie world is trying to kickstart their universes. So The Mummy, word got out, it's going to be part of the dark universe of Universal, and you're going to have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde be the global leader of this conglomerate that monitors all the Universal monsters. And now we've got 8 movies coming, and it's just like, just calm down and do a good movie and see where it goes, right? Or do you applaud the ambition, or are you kind of like, oh, please stop?
More, oh, please stop. I'm happy that they're trying, but the problem is you can't mimic a comic book movie world, because it works because the universe is being built based on prior material. When you're trying to make a Marvel Universal dark universe, you're kind of prying on things that aren't really established, and that's a big problem. I think balance. Let's just find balance. Somewhere in the middle, you know? Not too much pepper, not too much salt. Well season it.
I think, I don't know. I just think, to me, it's just, I feel like superheroes, I enjoy them, but even I'm getting tired. And I'm a huge comic book fan, and you are too. It's just like, after a while, there's a fatigue where, for me, the Marvel movies don't end up feeling like an event anymore like they did back in 2007 with Iron Man. It feels more like an obligation. Like, it again, very much feels like comic books, where you have, all right, well, I guess if I need to see this in order to get what happens in the next issue. That's, I feel like with movies, I have to get this in order to watch this in order to understand what happens in Avengers Infinity War and all the references they'll make. So I think you're right. Avengers is going to buoy next summer, and then you also have this year, end of this year, they'll probably recoup all their money with The Last Jedi that comes out in December. So they're going to be fine. But I think that it should give pause to concern that people maybe want something a little more inventive. I mean, we haven't had a Matrix type hit in quite some time, where it was a completely original universe building idea. That's a whole nother show to argue about the sequels, but at least that first movie kind of took everybody by surprise and offered up a whole new world to kind of play with, which was exciting at the time. And I don't think we've really seen too much of that.
I totally agree. And if you remember, when Matrix came out, it blew a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
And while the 2 sequels didn't do quite well for themselves, that entire animation did really well. There's still a manga that's being released that did well, so it did well for itself as a property over time.
And we still talk about it today, so that's a sign that we're not going to talk about Valerian and the 7 planets of fire. I don't know what it was, but we're gonna, it's a weird fact of the summer. But before we go, I do want to get your pick of the week, Franco. Football season, not this Labor Day weekend, but the following weekend, kicks into high gear. Is there a matchup that you're excited about, and what's your bold prediction? Another fun thing we brought back, a bold prediction. So a matchup and a bold prediction.
I'm really excited about the Patriots-Chiefs game. For a couple reasons. One, Patriots supposed to be this vaunted offense. They're going to run through everybody. Let's see what happens.
Yep.
Remember that game where the Chiefs blew out the Patriots 41-0. Something's there. Andy Reid's figured out Belichick a little bit. So yep. I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out, and if the Patriots really are as good as we think they are. My bold prediction, the Los Angeles Chargers, or San Diego Chargers as I will always call them, will make the playoffs this year, despite everything else. And there's science behind this. Last year, for the most part, they lost most games by 3 or a little more than 3. It's a lot of close calls. and it's kind of, are you due? Hopefully this year they'll win some of those and that'll put them over the edge.
Okay, my bold prediction, I think 8 head coaches get fired before the end of this season. 8.
That is, okay, we'll keep a coach count too.
We'll keep a coach count.
If we remember, we probably won't, but if we do.
We probably won't. I'm thinking 8 get the can. All right.
Okay.
So, Franco, what did you learn today?
I learned that you believe Hollywood is not in as much trouble as some pundits will make us think, and I think you're absolutely right. What did you learn?
You're supposed to ask me. Thank you. We've only been doing this for
I mean, you were
like
loaded
months.
up. I thought you were like a shotgun. You're doing the Superman punch. You were ready to unload 14 of them.
I learned that I don't know that my friends don't know me as well as I think they do. There you go. Ending on that note. For the BFF show, my name is Brendan.
I'm Franco.
Bye.
Peace.